it's really important that we set up the processes. I think Arpit was quite eloquent in his presentation about setting up our processes that we have to teach people how to follow. And so, Eleanor, you've watched all those presentations, and Michelle also. So, Eleanor, any comments that you would like to make, you would like to add to round up your presentation, and then Michelle, you can do the same.
I think the key thing that's coming across to me are, for one thing, it's we've all identified it starts at the individual level. Each one of us having accountability in our own lives, and based on our own personal relationship with God. And I think the other thing is working together. That's so crucial as well. Because it's so easy, it seems, for Christian groups to not realize that others are working for the same goals. And I think that is also a very important aspect of what we do that we need to nurture as much as possible as well.
Yeah, and there was a question in there about where can you get that Salvation Army report, and we'll post that once we find the electronic version, because I think we have people from about 35 countries on this
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, and it was initially done at our international office in London, England. So I will pursue that and find out. I know it is available here in Canada for sale, but I'm going to see what we can find out about getting an electronic version, and possibly that will come from London.
Yeah. I also put in the link the website for the Global Integrity Network. And if you have a specific request regarding any of the presentations and you want to get in touch with one of the people, send it to globalintegritynetwork@gmail.com. And that's our office in the Philippines, in Manila. And they will make sure that they get it to us. Michelle, you've been watching, you've been listening. You can make any comments you want, because I love everything you have to say. So please, I'm sure people will do likewise.
I appreciated your presentation, Eleanor, and your interview, Willie, with Lori. And I think things that stood out to me in your presentation, Eleanor, regarding policies need review and adjustment. It's like we can put things in place and then just forget about them. They get put in a drawer. So, and along with that, you said a clear response plan. So whatever the issue is that we have policies for and plans, it does need to be something that is talked about and often. And part of the organizational ethos is to be able to talk about these things and update, and new people coming in, and modeling from top leadership all the way down. So yeah, leaders need, like you said, need to be involved, and they need to model. And that relates to what Lori was talking about in terms of mentoring. And I just thought her beautiful description of spending time, the gift of time, which in our culture today is a rare gift. People are with us, but they're on their phones. And in families, it's sad how this has infiltrated families where, the gift of time is not really there. The practicing the presence of people, we've lost that gift, and deep listening. So I saw it as modeling and mentoring, and that's beautiful. And we all need to look at that in our own lives. What is the role of that we have? Who are we responsible to? And who do we need to help build their character, even as we're building ours? and being accountable. So what are we modeling? Kelly's presentation was a lot of resources, and I want to say if you can sometimes the language can be a little bit difficult, but that is part of our work, is to be able to learn the language of civil society organizations and the broader scope UN and governmental organizations, so that, you know, he's talked about contributing, and it's like, well, how can we contribute? But actually, the UN Office for Drugs and Crime has developed quite a e-learning platform, and you can just join that. There are many things open to the public, a broad range of topics, and contributing. They want people to contribute to fighting corruption, and I think they would love to hear about successes, or love to hear questions about, or what's helpful in their e-learning platform. Some of the things are open to people that work in government in their countries, but you can also request if there's something that you think, oh, that would be a really good a learning, a module for me to learn about, or my team. So I think there are some resources there, and you can just sort of go through them, clicking on the notes, but clicking on everything is linked, including the photographs in the presentation. So there's a lot there that you can delve into. And yeah, some of us are in positions where we could, if we know what some of the conventions say that our countries have signed on to, this can be support. So there's the contribution side, but there's the support side that can support us in our efforts, and in holding in campaigns, and holding people accountable. I have noticed the theme throughout the conference of the issue of character, and regulations will not cause things to improve. It's only as good as the people who are implementing them. And so this theme is so true. And then the solidarity theme. So I think these are all takeaways for me that make a lot of sense. And I'm glad to hear people talk about them in situ, like why that's important when they were confronting something. And also the call on people's lives. I mean, that they came through, and I think the previous session with, let me say his name, Matembo, a call. So there are people within the space of confronting corruption that I think have a special place, and we can rally around such people. But Martin Alibi was saying it has to be sustained and resolute group that's confronting issues. And today I was actually in Geneva at the Place des Nations, in front of the UN, where all the flags are and where the broken chair sculpture is. This is a place where people rally when they want to express their voices about an issue. And I was very heartened to just see a peaceful demonstration against the pandemic treaty and the sovereignty issues around it, that many countries have said, we're not going to sign this treaty during this World Health Assembly that just ended today at the WHO, at the UN. And people were there. And that is part of democracy, being able to express your conscience and to express for debate where you stand on an issue. And so I thought it was important for me to be there and learn more about what people were concerned about. So I think we need to show up and see where can we join forces with other people. And I have friends on the continuum. I don't, this whole polarization of things. I have friends that represent all of the positions, and I don't discount people because they don't think the way I do, but they have the right to and the freedom to express what they believe. So those, maybe I'll leave it there. And I don't know if anybody has any particular questions about about the presentation. I can try to field, but.
I think the good news that we have is that we don't have to start from scratch. This is the wonderful news. One of the things that I've said at, I guess, every one of the virtual cafes that I've moderated is that the gospel has already gone before them. There's eternity in the hearts. There's that book written about how God placed a bit of eternity in everyone's heart. But the company that I worked for had an ethics guide. And if I look at it, it's based on the gospel. And if someone wants to have an interesting assignment for a class, is download the ethics guides of all the major corporations. And they publish them because they want to show that they're ethical. But when you look at that and just take a look, it's scripture written in a different way, in a very mechanical way. Maybe the language that Michelle, you talked about, or that Kelly talked about, all those funny words that we don't understand. But the beauty of it is the gospel has gone forth already, and we just need to build up on it. And the best part is that everyone has to take has to take a training in it, has to write a little refresher exam every single year. So they have to read the gospel. And so God has already prepared that work. And there is so much more out there. Eleanor, I saw that you were nodding, not vehemently, but one of the questions that I would have for you is Salvation Army has done this incredible job of that. And it's Salvation Army is in 134 countries. The question is, what are you doing to keep that alive in the organization? And can that document, I saw there was a question by Arpit, can we apply that to other areas? Can we learn from one another? I'd like to hear your comments, Eleanor.
I think it's a helpful document, and I don't know why it couldn't be used by anybody who's interested in that sort of thing, And it's interesting to me that I really do believe that things are spirit directed. I believe he is guiding us, and I believe the church is moving towards our real authenticity, which is the thing that we are lacking most, and why we don't have credibility, certainly in our part of the world, is because we have not been authentic, because we've been compromised by the standards of the world around us. And I believe God is really calling us to be genuine, to be people of integrity, people that can be trusted. And I believe when that happens, that there's going to be people are spiritually, it's clear people are spiritually hungry.
Yeah.
And I believe that our integrity and being people they can trust will enable them to discover faith that they need so much, the love of God for them.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we also have is this whole area of discernment. Because if you have no discernment, you don't have integrity, because everything is out there. And one of the beautiful things as leaders that we can do is teach people how to become discerning. And that requires the Spirit. And Michelle, as a psychologist, from your perspective, what does this authenticity do, or in terms of healing? Because there's a lot of brokenness behind that. I'd like to hear your perspective on that. You're muted. Michelle, you're muted.
I think you've put those two things together, auticity and healing. I think that's very powerful, but very true. When you are with people who are authentic, who are grounded, uh, it we're learning just in how there's actually things that happen within the body that regulate people that are regulated. I think people who are authentic are usually emotionally regulated. Or if they're authentically, emotional about something, it's in a way that is helpful and constructive. So that can be very healing because there is so much dysregulation emotionally in the world. How can we be peace builders? We have to find that peace of God within in order to share that and be people that are regulated. So I think there's a lot in the scriptures about, we don't call it dysregulation, regulation, but it's there about the peace of God that's within, that passes understanding, that causes us to be able to be joyful. And joy is our strength. But what is that joy grounded in? And God's presence. So I think, yeah, these are, and people of hope. So joy, peace, and hope go together. And the world needs us to be people that are joyful and hopeful so that they can say, oh, there's something different here. But this is, and then we can share. This is a hope in our, that's grounded in our relationship with Christ.
Yeah,
and what he has done. Yeah.
and that's the one thing that I really like what's coming out of all the sessions is our walk with God. Munford started off, it begins with me. Uh, uh, Lori basically said, when I asked her, what's the one point? Love Jesus. Being accountable. Eleanor, you've said that. There was a question in the chat by Alvin about this whole thing about our Christian witness and partisan politics and all that. I think sometimes we forget that Jesus loves the person on the other side of the political spectrum that you are in as much as you. And so often we forget that should be a stronger bond because we're firstly citizens of the kingdom of heaven, not citizens of a party. And we should be treating each other with the respect that God gave us while we were yet sinners. He died for us. I know we've gone a little bit over time, but one of the questions that I've put in this booklet is, how brightly does your integrity shine? And I think that's the one thing that we're saying is that we shouldn't be hiding the light that God has put within us under a bushel, but we declare it openly. Well, thank you both. And Michelle, give our thanks to Kelly for putting together that useful presentation. And thank you so much for this.